The wave of anger that brought down rulers in Egypt and Tunisia kept rolling today. For the first time, protests broke out in Libya, long ruled by Muammar Gaddafi.
The protests have spread. On the streets in Colonel Gaddafi's backyard, the capital, Tripoli, demonstrators have had to run for their lives.
There will be civil war. We will go back to the civil war of 1936. We will kill each other in the streets. Libya is not Tunisia or Egypt. Libya has oil, which is unified Libya.
Protesters are said to have taken control of at least half a dozen main towns surrounding Tripoli. In response, military aircraft are reported to have shelled roads leading to the capital and to have fired live rounds on demonstrators in the city itself.
Everything will burn if the rebellion continues. The words of Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi today as he went on state TV and vented his fury against the uprising that's shaken his 42-year rule.
In a rambling, bizarre speech and defiant as ever, he said he would crush the uprising, vowing to die a martyr in his home country. He said, unlike other leaders, he would never stand down.
World powers moved today to tighten the screws on Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. But Gaddafi, in an interview with ABC News, refused to acknowledge there were any protests in Tripoli.
They love me, all my people with me. They love me all. But if they do love they will die to protect me, my people.
We heard President Obama today call again for Gaddafi to leave. He spoke again about preparing a full range of options. He didn't go further yet. He didn't rule out, but he did not go further yet to a no-fly zone. What was your reaction to his
Well, I must say
today?
thank you very much to President Obama, because we want him to be firm with this regime. We want him to help our people, and we want him to work with the Europeans to establish the non-fly zone.
The casualties are mounting up. Young men who want to fight but don't know how, armed with Kalashnikovs and rocket-propelled grenades against tanks and fighter bombers.
Gaddafi's men are on the road to Benghazi and the rebels are on the run. Just days ago, and for 100 miles around, this was in rebel hands. Not anymore. Gaddafi's state television has been showing off his latest prize, the oil town of Brega.
Thousands of people poured out of eastern Libya today in a panicked rush into Egypt to escape Muammar Gaddafi's troops. As they fled, another rebel stronghold was in danger of falling.
The U.S. and other powers made ready today to enforce a no-fly zone and other measures in Libya. President Obama said the world would not be deterred by Muammar Gaddafi's claims of a ceasefire.
These terms are not subject to negotiation. If Gaddafi does not comply with the resolution, the international community will impose consequences, and the resolution will be enforced through military action.
Can the resolution be read to allow attacks against leaders of the Libyan government, even Muammar Gaddafi himself?
Ray, no, I don't believe that's the purpose of the resolution. The resolution is clear, that the aim is to protect civilians, to hold those who have perpetrated atrocities, including Gaddafi, accountable through legal means.
When our interests and values are at stake, we have a responsibility to act. That's what's happened in Libya over the course of these last 6 weeks.
In the devastated heart of Misrata, Libyan fights Libyan for every foot and every building on every street. These pictures, taken by rebel fighters, show the close-hand nature of this bitter battle and what it has done to the city. Footage said to have been filmed over the last 2 days shows pro-Gaddafi forces still have tanks on the streets. But the rebels claim they're holding their own and even regaining ground.
You are just back from this trip. What can you add to what ordinary Libyans are living with right now?
Well, of course, it's a terrible situation in some parts of the country, not just Misrata, but elsewhere, where the violence is very intense. Fighting is going on. and we're not able to get aid to the people who need it.
Look, polls reflect a growing opposition, as you know, to the U.S. NATO military action in Libya. What's behind that? What's going on?
Well, nobody, even in the White House, they weren't eager to do this. They felt they had no choice, part because of the humanitarian, part because the Europeans wanted to do it, and part because the Arab Spring. And so they didn't know where it was heading, and naturally the American people don't know where it's heading.
In Libya, a fresh round of NATO airstrikes rocked Muammar Gaddafi's compound in Tripoli. The barrage hit hours after the Libyan leader appeared on state television for the first time in nearly 2 weeks. Later, Libyan officials showed the destruction to reporters. They said Gaddafi and his family had moved away from the fortified complex some time ago. Meanwhile, rebels said they were advancing west from Misrata after breaking a long siege by government troops and tanks.
The bombing campaign is into its third month, and yet the Libyan regime clings onto power. NATO rejects claims that it has lost momentum. NATO is trying to find a way to finish what it started.
The strike force is led by Britain and France, with Norway, Denmark, Belgium, and Canada joining in. But other major NATO members like Germany, Poland, the Netherlands, Turkey, and Spain are not flying airstrikes.
The mightiest military alliance in history is only 11 weeks into an operation against a poorly armed regime in a sparsely populated country. Yet many allies are beginning to run short of munitions, requiring the U.S. once more to make up the difference.
The U.S. role in the operation was called into question today by House Speaker John Boehner. He sent a letter to President Obama telling him by Sunday the administration will be in violation of the War Powers Resolution, which requires congressional consent for military action beyond 90 days.
The U.S. House rendered a split decision today on the military operation in Libya. Lawmakers refused to endorse the U.S. role, but they likewise refused to stop footing the bill.
The U.S. and more than 30 other nations have formally recognized the main opposition group in Libya as the legitimate government. The announcement came at a gathering in Turkey today. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said Muammar Gaddafi has forfeited his right to rule to the Transitional National Council.
Until an interim authority is in place, the United States will recognize the TNC as the legitimate governing authority for Libya, and we will deal with it on that basis. In contrast, the United States views the Gaddafi regime as no longer having legitimate authority in Libya.